One of the most influential figures in the Christian conservative movement mired in an alleged sex scandal.
Welcome back to Gangster Capitalism, Season 3, Jerry Falwell Jr. and Liberty University.
We got nothing to hide. We've operated a squeaky clean organization here for decades.
Please listen and follow Gangster Capitalism, a presentation of C13 Originals, a Cadence 13 studio, available now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, and wherever you get your shows.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio.
On WGR.
Welcome back. The NFL Draft is a week from Thursday night. At least round 1 is. Rounds 2 and 3 on the Friday night, and then the rest of the draft on Saturday. Sort of the, in recent years, traditional schedule. The draft is in Cleveland this year, so maybe you want to go to that. They're setting up outside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's that big pavilion there, if that's the right word. And so I can't wait. Excited for it. Sal Capaccio joins me on the West Her Hotline. Sal, you wanna tackle the fantasy question Joe just asked me before I start throwing you my questions?
Okay, well, I'll make you a deal. I'll do that if you tackle the trivia question I just asked Joe before I came on the air with you.
All right. What should the order be? You want to go? You go first, Sal.
Okay, my trivia question is, I just asked this to Joe. Can you tell me where Sam Reinhart ranks all time right now in Sabres goals scored?
31st.
He is 25th, just behind Tony McKegney and just ahead of Pierre Turgeon.
Can he pass guys the rest of this year? Can he pass McKegney?
He can. He needs he's only one behind McKegney, so he's going to pass him. But he is actually 4 behind Andre Savard, and then he needs about 8 more to pass both Jim Lorenz and Maxim Afinogenov to get into 21. To get to Jochen Hesch at 20, to get to the top 20, he'd need 12 more goals. I don't see that happening.
How many goals is it? Like 110? How many goals is it?
126 for Sam Reinhart.
All right. I wonder if 110 would have ranked 31st. I like this. I want to follow this continuing story, and I hope, Sal, that you will just remind us of it so we can trade. Is the point here that it kind of blows your mind that he's that high?
Yeah, after yesterday's game, I kept thinking to myself, he's had a nice year. He's still pretty young. Like, where is he on the all-time list? I just kind of thought about it. I actually thought he'd be higher because I figured, like, the top 10 is tough to break. But after that, it kind of gets a little, okay, like, how many years you got to play? He's in his 7th year now. I thought he might have been around just inside the top 20. But I do think he's had a nice he's been a nice goal scorer, and he's had a pretty good career so far for his young age.
For sure. I've always been on Team Reinhart, and I hope he's here a long time. There's a lot of obvious value, and there's also a lot of hidden value from the numbers in his game. The fantasy question was, Joe knows, Sal, that I had a lot of James Robinson last year. And I was even drafting him in June in Dynasty Leagues because I read a Mario Puig article about him. Like, all right, well, sort of when you get into the deeper dives, he was a guy for me. But he's been an interesting topic in fantasy this year because you don't know if Jacksonville probably won't give him the ball as often. Like, he had all of the usage in their offense last year. New coach now, new quarterback, so that is almost definitely not going to happen. They could also draft somebody, in which case you might be close to nowhere if you have Robinson. Joe wants to know what he should do.
What are the options? Should he trade him? Or?
Try to trade him now, and maybe if Jacksonville does not draft a running back, a trade you make now probably will look like a bad deal in 2 weeks. But if they do, then you could be kind of stuck.
I don't even know if it's about them drafting a running back. I think that you do trade him now, trade him high. He had 240 carries last year, as you noted, a lot of them. I mean, not a bad yards per carry, but 4.5 isn't like something, mind-blowing or anything like that. And then what kind of offense is Urban Meyer going to run? And, with Trevor Lawrence coming in, you're not talking about Doug Marrone here anymore, right? So I just think that, to me, his value might not get any higher than it is right now.
And all these teams are always trying to replace undrafted guys, even if they're good.
Right.
Like Lindsey in Denver. Chris Carson's been good in Seattle for 5 years, and they've spent a first-round pick on a running back.
Yep.
The Bills always try to replace Fred Jackson. So
Yep.
I wouldn't feel safe even
thing.
if they drafted a guy this year.
Jacksonville's over-under is 6. So that's 6-11. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's about right. Maybe I could see something like that, right around there. Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, they're not going to be very good, but I think they'll be better than last year.
Indy and Tennessee 9.5, Jacksonville 6, Houston 4. 4 is the lowest in the league.
4 in 17.
In 17 games. Yeah, they had 4 last year. I wanted to ask you a question about the AFC East win totals. I'll put you on the spot here, and we can all play if you want. So the AFC East totals, I think this is Bet Online I'm using here. They send the emails out. The Bills in first, 10.5 wins. Miami, 9.5. New England, 9.5. New York Jets, 6. What's your best bet?
So one more time. Can you read them to me one more time?
Bills, 10.5. Dolphins, 9.5. Patriots, 9.5. Jets, 6. I'll give you mine if you want to think about it, because I've thought about it.
I think mine would be the Bills. I'd go over. With 17 games, I think their schedule is conducive to getting to at least 11 wins.
11-6. Best bet. I think I want to be on under Miami.
Okay. All right.
And you're a part of my thinking on the Dolphins from all the conversations we had last year. There was such a curiosity. If the Bills were ever threatened last year in the AFC East, it was Miami in the middle of the season. They beat some good teams, and maybe they're good, but then you would always remind us, look at how they're winning. And so, yeah, I mean, that in the end, that was certainly the right attitude. I mean, they come here with the season on the line and just get destroyed. So I feel like they're going with Tua. They'll have a good draft probably. People will like their draft because they have a lot of picks, including high picks. And the quarterback is going to have to play. I mean, he's going to have to produce for them, and maybe he will. But I'm not afraid of the under on Miami. So 9-8 is under. I think that'd be my pick.
I like that, Mike. I think you're probably right around. You're pretty spot on your analysis. First of all, I think for them, but I think they're about a 500 team either way. So obviously you can't get to exactly 500 anymore with an odd number of games. But I do think it would be disappointing if the Bills only went 10-7 this year. That to me, that would be a disappointment. It sounds like getting to 10 wins generally like, hey, that's great, but they have a championship caliber roster. As I say all the time, they were 45 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl last year. They were leading the Chiefs at the end of the first quarter. They have so much continuity coming back, coaches, players, Josh Allen, everybody. I think getting to 11 wins should be kind of the bar, like the low bar to clear. They should be able to do that. So short of injury, I think 10 wins would be a disappointment at this point.
Is the number sort of curiously low for you?
No, I've generally, I think you've paid more attention to this over the years than I have, and I kind of just do it just kind of for fun. I think you pay much more attention to it, like to really kind of dig into it. And I've noticed that these numbers aren't usually, when you think a team is a little bit better, generally their number is a little bit lower because it is hard to win in the league. And generally most teams are, around 500. I think I heard somebody say one time, every team in the league is 500. If you get a few breaks, you're going to win 9 games, maybe 10. And then if you actually have a really good quarterback or coach, that's good for maybe a couple extra wins. So it's really difficult to get to over 11 or to get to 11 or 12 wins in the NFL every year anyway. And I think that's why when I see a team like the Bills at 10.5, that's still a healthy number.
I'll tell you what, if my guess on the Dolphins is right, your guess is more likely to be right. and vice versa, right? Like, the division is better on paper, and that's even before the draft. So the Jets will have a new quarterback. Perhaps all 3 teams will, but it doesn't look like Miami will. New England at 9.5. I think there's just a better group. It's a better group. So that could be one reason why the Bills number isn't a tick higher. It is tied for the fourth highest total in the league. Kansas City 12.5, Tampa Bay 12, Baltimore, always Baltimore, 11.5. Joe, you want to take on the AFC East question? What's your best bet?
The only thing that I would hesitate on taking the under on Miami, because I'm down on them this year, is they have the fifth easiest schedule based on last year's win percentage. So I would be hesitant that if that comes to fruition, we'll see year to year, it can definitely change. But if they've got an easy schedule, then I think they can get to 10-7 pretty easily.
The schedule, though, is almost identical to the Bills.
Yep.
What's the difference? The NFC East
and
is Washington versus Dallas.
They get the Giants, and the Giants could be a lot better. We don't know. I mean, given some of the additions they have, but you think about they have to play the Ravens.
That's right.
Whereas the Bills have to play the Steelers, and I think that's a win for the
huge.
that's a advantage Bills in that scenario.
And third place is Cleveland.
Right.
So
I'd
that would be
Pittsburgh.
New England would play Cleveland
Right.
then. And yeah, I mean Pittsburgh would be the team I'd draw from those choices. Jets.
The
and
one
Bengals.
that the Bills get hurt on is Kansas City, obviously.
Right.
Whereas the Dolphins have to play the Raiders, right? I believe it is. And and then New England gets the Chargers. Or the Broncos. Who finished in third? I don't even remember who finished in third in that division.
Third was the Chargers, 7-9. Yeah.
What was
there you
Denver?
go. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys see there's another one? This was interesting. This came over today. Sportsbetting.ag is one. They also have the over-unders, but they have a line on a yes or a no, will a team make the playoffs? And then basically they write what the line implies. For the Bills, their odds imply 74.4% chance that they will make the playoffs. And when you go down to the Miami Dolphins, I was looking at them as well, their line implies a 62.3% chance they won't make the playoffs.
That's the difference between 10.5 and 9.5?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So there must be 7 teams above 9.5. I'm looking at it. Buffalo, Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
I think I saw the Chargers are
KC,
above 9.
They're 9.
They're 9.
Indian, Tennessee are 9.5 exactly. I don't know. I got to fiddle with that one. All right. Sal, the draft is next week. What are a couple of your sort of latest thoughts on what you expect from the Bills here, thinking about them? Like there's no news that I'm aware of here in recent days or comments or anything like that. Are those coming? I mean, are we going to get...
Yep.
That
tomorrow.
Is coming? Tomorrow, okay.
Tomorrow. Brandon Beane is going to speak with the media tomorrow for his pre-draft conference call. It'll be over Zoom. I'll be on that. That'll be at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So, who knows what we'll get from it. But we'll hear from Brandon Beane. It's funny, Mike. I just did a podcast on this today. And, one of the things that's kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word annoy. This might be a little too strong. But I don't like the blanket best player available versus need discussion. I think there's much more nuance to it. And the way that I like to phrase it is, first of all, it is best player available. I think almost all teams take best player available. I think that I am best player available guy anyway. I believe in that. But either way, it's best player available. But of course, sometimes you don't take the absolute best player available if you are all set at the position. And like on the podcast, I use the example of if, for example, some extreme weird thing happened where Justin Fields was available at number 30, the Bills wouldn't take him. Now, maybe there could be some odd scenario where a team just saw so much value in that they had to do it and wanted the asset, but generally that's not going to happen. So to me, it's not best player available versus need. It's best player available except in a position you're already set at.
Yeah, totally. That's right. I mean, the name of the game is it's two things. It's how much better is this player, in our opinion, versus the other guys at that position. And then, what is the importance? What is the value of the position? So if it's a punter and one guy is far and away the best, you think, you're still not going to pick him first because that's what running back is running back is more that so many guys are clustered together. I think it is like goalies where the separation just for the most part is not there. And it's why if the Bills are going to draft a running back in this draft, Sal, I hope it's in round 5. I mean, I've read about 20 guys. You're going to get someone in the top 20 if you pick them in round 5. It's not going to be Travis Etienne or Najee Harris. So be it. That's what I would want. If you told me they do pick one, I'd want it to be 5th or later, I think.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I agree. Like, I'm generally on that train too. But I heard your discussion in the first half hour, and when a team doesn't have, it's funny. Kansas City's always the team I bring up too, which is, hey, look what they did, and here's this team. They had all these things, and they still drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But what's interesting about that is, a year later, and they kind of think about maybe where are they at wide receiver now, because Sammy Watkins left, and is Robinson the guy? Like, I mean. Yeah, they still have Hill and Hardman, I guess, but I think you could make an argument still, though, that they maybe should have, maybe running back was too much of a luxury for them to take when they did it.
Totally, right. And I don't know if you heard me lay that exact thing out, but T. Higgins and Michael Pittman Jr. were the first 2 picks of round 2. And
yeah.
I don't know, Sal. Like, you can't call the Chiefs limited, but Watkins and his constant injury drama, Robinson isn't good, Pringle... Hardman was erratic. They definitely could have used one of those guys, and I don't know. I don't know exactly how it went down, but it sort of felt like the story was Mahomes made the pick, that Damian Williams was going to play, and like, let's get this weapon and we'll be that much better. And ultimately, it did not make them better. Like, he just didn't. He was replacement level, thereabouts, and in retrospect, it looks like the receiver would have been the better idea. Do you have, is it still the Syracuse corner for you? Like, what's the perfect round 1 for you?
No. I mean, I don't know. The more I look at Melifonwu, I mean, he's probably not worthy of that particular pick. I just like him a lot. I think he really fits what they do. I'd like him on the Bills. Yes, I do think he fits the Bills perfectly. I don't know if the value is here for him at pick number 30. It might be someone you'd rather get in the second round, or even like maybe trade up in the second round, trade back from the first, however that might work out. I like Newsome, maybe the corner out of Northwestern. I've been looking at him a little bit as far as his scheme fit, being able to play more zone coverage. I do think like corner would fit. There's a lot of guys that that's kind of the point of, where you're picking at 30 is so hard to kind of pigeonhole the Bills, because anything can happen. And that's why I do believe it will be best player available, as long as it's not, hey, wow, we have a great grade on this guy, but we just don't need that at all at that position. But as long as that's not the case, you take them, because the draft doesn't have to be about 2021. It can be about 2022 and forward too. Right on.
How about the Yankees at 5-10? Source of frustration?
Man, it's Garrett Cole and a bunch of it's crazy. I'm going to go see them, taking the family there to Cleveland this weekend. Be a little chilly, but going to see some baseball. Going to go to the Sunday afternoon game, and I'm just hoping they win a couple of games before they get there, because they are not in a good spot. Now, I know they've played some tough teams, but that doesn't matter. They're the Yankees. They should be better than they are. To me, they haven't upgraded the pitching enough, and it's not always about the bats, especially in the colder weather. I mean, you need some arms, not bats.
Well, maybe you should stand up. Like Glenn Close in The Natural, when you're if they lose these games before that, just you stand up at one point. Whoever's in the worst slump, you stand up, and then there's the home run. That's when the luck changes. Have you ever done anything like that? Maybe this is the time.
No, I've never.
No,
I've never done anything like that.
5-10, 2-8 in their last 10. Not good. Joe, did you know this? The Yankees were 5-10.
I did. I was looking at the standings the other day, checking out my Blue Jays.
Worst record in the American League, I believe, overall.
That's right. Worst record in the American League. Second worst record in the majors, in front of the Rockies.
I didn't know what to be more surprised by, them being bad or the Red Sox being at the top, because I remember you and Bulldogs saying that they're not even trying to win.
That was going to be my bet, and I didn't make it. I said it. I told you I liked Boston more than the odds. I thought Boston was good value. Who knows what'll happen? They won today. They blew out Giolito today in that morning game they play in April every year. Patriots Day. All right. Sal, very good. Enjoyed your trivia question. I like it. And good conversation as always. Talk to you next time.
And now I'll follow it and keep you updated.
Good. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline, brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. What's your outlet? Sam Reinhart. So he said 25th in Sabres history in goals with 126.
13 behind Eichel, by the way.
Closing fast.
Yeah.
Eichel ranks where?
19th.
All right.
It's not much more we need to do with that, I think.
No, I'm not here. I'm not looking for a game where I name the top 30 or anything like that. I don't need that. Reinhardt is, for me, it's like this. Those two guys are the players of these years, and they're losing years. And I would, like Sal said different. I asked him, like, are you surprised? Is your mind kind of blown that he's that high? He's like, no. I thought it'd be higher, and that's sharp. Because for me, these years are just so meaningless with the Sabres that I just lose focus on them. That's one way to put it. And so the totals pile up, and I just like, okay. So it's surprising that it's that. I like Reinhardt. It's not a question of that. It's surprising to me that he's so high. But of course, I mean, he was drafted almost 7 years ago. And just that first year did he only play a few games, it makes sense. All right. I want to talk a lot of NFL draft this week. Joe and I will do more of that. You can join us at 803-0550. Running back has been my favorite category in the draft talk this year, and there are plenty of people who think the Bills would be wise to draft a running back in round one. I am not among them. I think they should trade down anyway, but I wouldn't pick a running back with those picks either. What do you think? 803-0550 is the number. Mike Shope here. Bulldog is off. He'll be back on Wednesday. This is WGR.
When it comes to trading up for the Bills, I think it's a logical idea. If I were going to trade up, I would still want to make sure that I had 3 picks in the first 3 rounds. What I would be looking at if I'm the Bills, it's pick 161, 174, 213, 236, using those to help you move up in the third or move up in the second. I don't think I would want to part with 61 or 93 to make that type of move up the board if I didn't have to. And I think it's a worthwhile conversation. Rostering 7 draft picks could be difficult for this football team. So if they come away with 5 players, but those moves come from jumping up from 93 or getting into the 4th round, something like that would make a lot of sense to me.
Draft Network star Joe Marino on our morning show on Friday. Thinking about the draft much yet? For some, that will sound ridiculous because, of course, it's next week. For others, it might be like, no, I'll think about it next week. 803-0550. I'm thinking about it. My interest in football is largely fantasy-related, and I need this draft to be over so I can do stuff. In these dynasty leagues, nobody really wants to do much because it's just too uncertain. You don't know which teams these guys are going to be on, and we mentioned James Robinson before. Which of the veteran players will be affected? The Bills guys, right? Moss and Singletary. What will this draft mean to what it appears anyway, or will appear, their statuses on the team? So that every team's makeup, every team's look changes every year at the draft. So I kind of need it to happen. Then we can have a conversation.
I did just make a very big trade in my league, giving up on the top quarterbacks in the draft to get Matthew Stafford.
You made that trade?
I just did it.
Joe sent this to me last night, and I misread it. I'm like, no, you can't do that. He's like, really? Everybody says I should.
Yeah, all the charts say do it.
And then I referred to one of the charts. It's like, no, you're reading it wrong.
Well, the only thing holding me back was if you get Justin Fields and he hits, you get him for 10 years. But I haven't been in dynasty leagues long enough yet to be thinking on the scale of 10 years down the road. And I think Matthew Stafford's going to be great. So,
for how many years? 3.
He's 33. Yeah, 3. 3, and anything I get past that, that's bonus.
I'm fine with betting on Stafford. I like that too. But he's not incredible, and there's none of that rushing value you should get from Fields, like to a lesser extent probably Lance.
You will need 5,000 yards, 30-plus touchdowns minimum for him to be like a quarterback 1 without the rushing.
Yeah. Well, you might get it.
Yeah.
You might get it. Interesting team again. Dave is next on WGR. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Mike. I'm just like you. I don't feel that you should pick a running back in the early rounds. I think I'm a foundation guy. I think if you spend you spend the picks on a solid offensive line, that can turn a good running back into a great running back. And I think that, but I would, having said that, I would love the Bills to get a guy that's a nice combination of speed and size that can be kind of a pounder, because I think if they can expand the running game, it'll make the passing game all that more deadly.
All right, Dave. Thank you. I don't think, and I think last year is some proof of this, I don't think how good your running game is means anything to what your passing game is. It only does if you showcase it. If you have, it's looking at it backwards in my mind. Not whether they should draft a lineman. You could draft a lineman. But what to expect from the Bills' running game, for me, works like this. Is my passing offense bad? If it's yes, then okay, well, how am I going to make my offense good? I'm going to need to run the ball more. Maybe I can do it well enough that you just load up and try to defend me up in tight, and I can throw over the top of you. This is kind of like when Tyrod Taylor was the Bills quarterback, what they wanted to do. Even though they had Watkins and Woods and Hogan, and like they were pretty nice, Goodwin even, like they were pretty nice there, but that wasn't what they were about. So if I had that team, and I'm sure we had many conversations in those years and before the Taylor teams, like that's how you could look at it. But that and it's more true now than it was then. That is overall weakness, because your passing offense is just worth a lot more. And here we saw last year the Bills show up at the party, and they could do anything they wanted throwing the ball, like out of nowhere. It was incredible. Even if you liked Allen and believed in Allen, still, this was above most people's highest expectations. And, Diggs, his part in that, he stayed on the field. They were healthy. Everything was just right. Drafting a running back will do nothing to augment that, to fix that, to do it. No, it just won't. It will not. The only way it does sort of, look good is if you run the ball more and your new guy is successful, your offense sort of builds for it, which is what it would take for your guy to be successful, no matter who he is. And all of that just takes away from the stuff I do well that has more value. Not to mention that if you drafted a running back high enough to make it a priority, you'd want to make the player look like he was an important part of your offense, and that's just more reason to think the Bills would be, I don't expect any of this, by the way, but, it could happen, more of a team to bet against. That's where I would end up. If they drafted the best running back, your favorite running back in the first round, it would just give me a reason to bet against them. Because then that person's going to get the ball a lot to justify the draft pick, and Josh Allen will have the ball less often. They'll throw the ball less often. Stephon Diggs will be less valuable, on and on and on and on and on. And that's not the team that went to the AFC Championship. That's a team that, goes 9-8. Used to be 9-7. Used to be so perfect sounding for that, but that's a team that goes 9-8. So draft a lineman if you want, but pay no mind to your running game.
Your running game is Allen. Your running game is Allen scrambling, and I'm okay with that.
Fine.
If I had the Saints the last couple of years, Breeze is just completely immobile. Phillip Rivers with Austin Eckler, Brady with James White. If I had one of these older statue quarterbacks that when they get pressured, the only way they're getting anything out of that play is dumping it off to one of those running backs and then go watch Kamara run for 8 to 10 yards. There's value to me in the position at that point. Not enough to ever draft one in the first round, but there's enough to be looking for pass-catching running backs. The Bills just don't need that player because they don't use that player. Because when Allen gets under duress, he's able to escape and he's able to run it himself. And that is the most effective part of them rushing, is a pass play that breaks down. So I like to be looking for these pass-catching running backs that are not like Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, but I'm not desperate in any way to get them just because I don't think Josh Allen will ever use that player.
I agree. Simple. It's an easy one for me. It's not even really close for me. So yeah, no thanks. Hey, how did in a 10-team hockey league you and I both miss the playoffs? I I thought we were kind of good.
I know. Well, injuries.
Oh,
Injuries.
Is that what I should say?
Postponement.
Injuries.
I mean, I had two good Canucks players, Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, just out for the last month because they've been shut down. So that's hurt. I lost Eichel.
Eichel.
I would chalk my season up to injuries. I don't know about you. You had the same thing, though.
Well, Joe, here at Zubaz Malone, we don't like to make excuses. And that's when you can make a bunch of excuses after you said you don't do that. Then you can get away with it.
No, that's bad,
Kucherov, Freddie Anderson. I lost Trocheck. He was really good in the middle, but then he came back. Our Canes, first place. At Tampa Bay tonight, at Tampa Bay tomorrow night, at Florida Thursday, at Florida Saturday for Carolina.
You led the league in moves, by the way. You're the most active owner.
The banner's going up, and I still missed. Was it in vain? Apparently. Apparently. So this league is the second year. No one won the first year.
Right.
The season was stopped, and so you stopped it. Someone will win this year, presumably.
Yep.
And then the way this works, Empire. So whenever this person who wins this year wins again, whenever that happens, first team to win twice, they win tons of extra money, and the league is stopped forever.
Because half of the pool every year goes to the Empire pot. And half every year, but last year it was the entire pot. We just decided there's no winner. We're not going to pay out for the regular season champ. We're not going to give you your money back because you finished fourth. We're just going to put the whole thing in
Double
the
down.
Empire pot. And then, every year thereafter, half of everything that comes into the league goes there. And that will go to the first person to win the league twice. So there's a maximum of 19 years that this can go on.
Right, because you're not doing two in a row.
I'm not doing two in a row. I'm just doing two in general.
In my new football league, it's Empire. It could go on forever.
And, I mean, what if it never happens? That could happen.
That's right, and that's a lot of money that gets sort of put somewhere that you got to be serious about, be careful with. But, the dynasty leagues you're in don't have an expiration date. They go on forever in theory, right? I've only been in one such league that stopped because it was just different things. People lost interest and just whatever. Like people had other leagues that they liked more, and just it was overall, not everybody in the league, but overall it was just sort of an indifference, and it was just ended. There was no money to pay out. We just didn't. All those good moves didn't matter anymore because it was just over. You had nothing to show for it. That was kind of sad. It's kind of sad when that happens.
When it just stops.
When it just stops. When it just ends, Joe.
I don't think I've had that happen yet. But I wanted it quicker. I wanted it to be able to, we could see it.
Yeah, I like it.
And there's rooting interest then. Of course.
There will be. I mean, this year it's all the same to me.
Whoever wins, though, this year, I mean, next year, if they're in the finals,
you know what that guy will have?
Everyone will be rooting very hard against that person.
A target on their back. That guy will have a target on their back next year. Yeah. I'll have to trade my best players to their opponent.
That's collusion.
That's collusion. That's right.
Is
Thank
it
you
collusion?
for listening.
What if you don't talk about it beforehand, though? If you just offer them, I mean, everyone will know your motivation.
Will you have veto power?
Yeah, I'd like to not have to use it, but yeah, I have veto power. There's no vote. Hate that.
I don't even like vetoes. I am anti-veto.
It would take an extreme circumstance for me to ever have to use it. That might be it.
But you could see it.
Like
in a league like this.
What you just described, maybe I get there.
Yeah, in a league like this, I'll have incentive for a certain other person in the league to not win.
Right.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, if you think you have a good team and you don't want it to all evaporate and start over.
Is there somebody in the league I should be rooting against because you don't like them? I don't really know most of these guys.
No,
I just know one guy.
They're all good guys. There's one that's a little annoying.
Which one is that?
Which one is that? Celtic Clovers.
You actually did answer. Interesting.
I
all right.
answered.
Do I want to root against the annoying guy?
Yeah, let's vote. Let's root against Celtic Clovers.
A lot of difference it'll make. All right, so we both missed the playoffs. Very sad ending to our hockey season. But, a lot of hockey teams we've watched and cared about have missed the playoffs. It happens. 803-0550, the number. Focus more on the NFL draft today. What do you want? It's next week. Bulldog is off again today. He'll be back on Wednesday. Mike Shope here with Sneaky Joe on WGR.
He's been in the league for a long time. So, I mean, he helped me today, just talking to me and, having your first NHL game with a guy that's been in the league for however many years he has, it helped a lot.
Matthias Samuelsson talking about Ristolainen. Sabres play Boston 3 times in the next 4 nights, all in Buffalo. Tomorrow's game is at 6:30, so 5:30 pregame. Final from England. Liverpool 1, Leeds United 1.
Just the worst. What an awful 24 hours for Liverpool.
I know. But can we talk about the ramifications of this thing? Because they are massive.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
The Super League.
It is... It's very American, U.S. sportsy to me. It's owners that know they have the monetary control kind of flexing their muscles. Because, so they're even in this Super League, there's only 12 clubs in it right now. 6 of them are Premier League teams.
Going to 20.
Yeah.
They say.
Going to 20. But every year in the Champions League, you only get a max of 5 Premier League teams in the Champions League. So every year, 1 or 2 will automatically miss out on that big payday that you get from going to the Champions League. And that's something to me that like U.S. sports owners don't have to deal with that because you're just in the league.
The biggest money soccer teams in England and in much of Europe are forming this so-called Super League to basically not replace Champions League per se. Like they could still have these other leagues, but UEFA,
they wouldn't be participating in Champions League.
Right. UEFA, which oversees it, doesn't want you can't, like a Liverpool isn't even allowed in the Premier League anymore if they were to go to the Super League. And the players are not allowed to compete for their national teams. That's what they're threatening. What a development. I mean, nobody wants this except the owners, it seems. Nobody wants this. Like it was great. The Champions League is great. Any fan, I would think, is satisfied. You're a fan of a small market club. You don't expect to beat Liverpool and Man U and the other ones, but you can. You get to play them. And so you temper your expectations. What the owners of the teams like Liverpool are saying, that's Fenway, by the way. It's John Henry and Fenway. They're saying, we don't need Leeds United. We don't want to play against you anymore. And this is our way out. We're just going to play each other.
Right, because from their vantage point, I don't make any money playing Leeds United.
They even referred to the COVID losses and a way to they even said it's a way for us to make up profits we lost from COVID. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are these teams worth? Billions.
They're worth, yeah. I mean, you look at, like, Forbes comes out with that list every year, like the most valuable teams in sports, and the Yankees are up there, the Knicks, and then it
Manchester
very quickly
United, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Right. Manchester City.
Yep.
It's really terrible.
I'm not stunned by it, though.
I think it's terrible.
I think it's terrible, but I'm not stunned by it from, and you've got U.S. influence in this with, like, John Henry, for instance, who owns Liverpool, head of Red Sox or Fenway Sports Group.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, those guys will look at this and think, are we trying to market this sport internationally? Because reading about this morning, those teams get more money from the United States and Asia than they do from their own fan bases. And I don't know if that means they should do something like this to just go right against what their fans want. But if they think that they'll earn more money marketing to those areas of the world by playing, if Liverpool's playing Barcelona and then they're playing Real Madrid and then they're playing, the German team's not in it, but PSG, like they're going just back to back against these super clubs. Like they're probably thinking that's going to make more money for us than us having to go play the second best team from Netherlands.
No doubt they've done the math, but they're prospecting, but they've definitely done the math. But it is, this is a foreign sort of strategy. Like it is antithetical to the sort of it's old-fashioned, but it's still right. Like the essence of it. What do these sports exist for? They are businesses, I know, but I just feel like there should sort of be a line that we all would know not to cross. We would have some variance in how we look at it, me versus you, but there's a point at which you know, like, well, this is good enough. It's the audacity of the COVID reference and just for what these teams are already worth. And you're going to blow up the Premier League, Liga, maybe, not Bundesliga, it seems, yet. The Italian League, Serie A. You're going to blow up these leagues and Champions League, just sort of go on your own as if, I don't know.
There'll be no value in it.
I want to support it in a certain sort of philosophical way because it is business, and I sort of want to. Sometimes I just sort of like that lane. Oh well, get this just in. It's a business, and that's the point of it, to make money. But sports is more than that. And the fact that you can own these teams and make these obscene amounts of money anyway should be good enough. But it's just, that's not the world, is it?
Do you like this or hate this for Everton?
I don't know what it means for Everton. And would somebody really in the know think that's different than what it means for this Leeds or whoever else? Like, the money varies from Everton down.
Right. But if this goes through and they get to a point where Liverpool and all these other huge clubs in the Premier League are no longer in the Premier League, well, that kind of ruins the Premier League. And they're making these threats, but if you go through with it, are these networks going to be okay with we don't get Ronaldo and Messi at the World Cup? We don't get any of these top players because you banned them. Or the video game, you're not in the FIFA video game because you banned all these players. So that to me is where I hate it.
Would there be a compromise in mind? Like if you set out down that road, if you're the Super League, maybe there's a compromise in mind and you have such control over the money in the situation where maybe, I don't want to assume that will happen, but I would bet on it happening. From what this is today, it seems like, well, this is what we're doing.
Right, because I think if they do that, I think that just blows everything up.
Yeah.
I don't know, you can have all these other leagues because, from Everton's vantage point, you might be the best team in the Premier League now, but who cares? Because we all feel like it's artificial.
I know. That's what's tough for me. 803-0550 is the number. Soccer, massive development today, or yesterday, I guess. That was when the news came down in the Super League. Talk some more NFL draft. Do you have a best-case scenario? A certain level of, super fan will have a best-case scenario. Yes, Mike, I want to draft this defensive back from this school. How about a worst-case scenario for the draft? Whether it's the Bills or someone else. We'll get into that. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off. Sneaky Joe along. This is WGR.